So in today's lesson, we will be discussing psychology paper one, A levels, and we'll be solving a paper which is related to October-November 2025, which is the very latest paper. I know very few days are left in the exams, so you all must be wondering that how to prepare. So I hope this video will help you to understand different questions and their techniques. So let's start off with the paper. I'll share my screen with all of you. Okay. So share screen, and where is that option? I can't find it. Okay, maintain current size, enter full screen. Yes, I want to go with the settings. Yes, there we go. Okay, so this is October, November 2025. The first question is in the study by Hassett, monkey toy preference. Hassett monkey toy preference. An example of toy is in example of a toy in the wheeled category was a car. Now, one example has been given to you. What is the second example? Identify one other wheeled toy that was in the wheeled category. So there were multiple others. So you can either write truck, wagon, or dump truck, or construction machinery. So paper one is really very easy to mark, to get marks, by the way. Like recently, one of my student, she got 58 out of 60 in paper one. All right. So it's very easy to get marks because most of this, the content in paper one is related to memorization. So where you have to write down facts and details from the study. Okay. So you'll find really questions like this. There's a possible list of questions that I've made that is always there in paper one. So I'll try to share that possible list of questions with all of you in at the end of this video. All right, video lesson. Thank you. So now let's move on to the second question here. It says outline what was meant by behavior, by the behavior drag as used in the study. Now, drag has its meaning in English. All right. Okay. So, but there are certain terminologies which are being used in psychology within a particular research context. Okay. So, what does that behavior drag meant? This is how sociologists they make their variables. They make behaviors operationalized. Operationalized mean they define certain things. Okay. Now, the drag over here means that the toy was actually moved along the ground. Okay, and the toy was behind the monkey. That's money written here. So it's monkey, MON. Yes, KEY. All right. Now, next question 1C is outline what is meant by term socialization. Okay, so if we look at in terms of general English, all right, other than sociology, so we might say socialization means interaction with each other. Okay, whereas in sociology, you don't need to write down the journal definition, generic understanding of terms. The way other subjects have terminology, similar psychology has terminology as well. So you have to make sure you use it in the term in the context of this subject. So it says socialization. So socialization has link with the behavior. All right. So it's a mechanism that changes or adapts a behavior to social norms and values. All right. Or maybe cultural expectations. Okay. So the changes or adaptation to behavior when we are modifying or changing a behavior to meet the cultural norms. Okay, that is how it's going to be defined. Now, question number two is from the study by Milgram, which is an obedience one. Okay, just to give you a quick recall of Milgram study. Okay, it was conducted because Milgram wanted to study how come Nazis, all right, or German, they followed the brutal instructions of Hitler, and eventually they ended up killing Jews. All right, so is this something wrong in the culture of Germany that people obey authority? That is why he conducted this research, obedience. So how could people be so destructive in their behavior, tend to accept, they tend to accept the orders. So once the study was concluded, so eventually he figured it out that this is nothing to do with German culture. People see authorities, all right, in a particular manner, and followers tend to believe that they have to follow the instructions which are being, shared with them. Okay, so one conclusion, coming back to the question, is one conclusion from the study was that when a person's responsibility is taken from them, they are willing to harm someone else. Okay, so once a person's responsibility is taken from them, whosoever is in charge, his responsibility is taken, they are willing to harm others. Outline one other conclusion from the study. Okay, so one other conclusion was very evident that individuals appear to obey or remain obedient to an authority figure despite the fact that orders might be against the values and norms. So just imagine this reason why these police officers, why you know these forces, law and order, forces, they wear a particular uniform because uniform actually defines you as an authority. Okay, similarly, if a teacher is wearing a wearing an attire, so he might establish his authority in the classroom. At the same time, in current teaching practice, you might have seen teachers becoming slightly casual because we do not want to establish authority in the classroom. We rather want to create a conducive learning environment where everyone is on board, and that's why you can see there's a slight shift of attire among teachers community also. Okay, now so the another conclusion was people they are more obedient to an authority figure, even if they are given an order that they have to do something which is against the culture and values. For example, anyone serving in any forces, if someone is giving them order that they have to shoot or they have to fight, okay, the followers they do obey them. Majority of them do because this is how they are being trained to obey and show obedience to authority. Though this term, there's a term called destructive obedience. Okay, so which relates to when you are working against the norms and cultures of against the values. Okay, now another question is explain one strength of this study. Okay, so it is of 2 mark again. 1 mark will be given to you for identifying the strength, and 1 mark will be given to you for quoting that example. So this procedure in this study was standardized. So the same study could replicate and produce the same results. Hence, it enhances the reliability. For example, all the participants they received 45-volt shock, and this made sure people that the shocks that they were giving to the learner, they were true in nature. Okay, so this standardization helped to avoid demand characteristics, and this increased the reliability of the study. So that's what 2 marks are there for it. The last one is the next question is from the study by Fagan, Elephant Learning. There's a term that they use. The capture technique was used in the training of the elephants. The capture technique. Outline what is meant by capture as used in the study. Now, capture is to hold, right? So in this case, the trainer waits for an animal to perform a specific behavior, specified behavior, and reaction could be spontaneous or natural. And later it was rewarded. So the behavior of below was captured from natural exhale. So you define the behavior, what is captured, and then you give an example for it. Okay. So moving on to the next question is outline one result about the mean success rate for the trunk wash task over the time. Like I told you earlier, this paper one is mostly based on identification, recalling the information, okay, and knowledge. AO1 is mostly heavy in this paper, so they usually ask you questions that you have memorized after studying key 12 studies in psychology. All right. So that's why again this question related to lifting. So if you are good at memorizing and if you have studied those 12 key learning, 12 key studies better, then you'll be able to perform really good in P1. So it's easier to get good marks in this paper. Now, so if you have memorized it, so you'll be able to take out it from paper. So there was a dip in the mean percentage success rates between sessions 25 and 30. This is the answer straight away. And now we're moving to the next question. It's from the study by Perry et al. Okay, so it says, describe the procedure of one trial for the experiment one from when the fixation point appeared until the end of the trial. Okay, so fixation point appeared until the end of the trial. Now you'll have to recall first thing first the study by Paris, personal space. Okay, so you just need to look for one per se, describe one trial for experiment one. What was the procedure? How that trial was being conducted? Okay, so you have to write down just 4 points altogether. Okay, so how experiment one was conducted. So let's start off with this now. Insert the text here. All right. So the participant was shown a still picture. You can write participant as P as well. Participant was shown a still picture. Okay. Then there was this was a circular room, all right, and there was a figure at the center of the room, okay, and there was an approaching figure, okay. They this and then they had to press the space bar, right? So there was a ball, a friend, an authority or stranger. They all were coming together. So there was a three animation of figure approaching the approaching um, approaching them, and this one was from the eight different entrances. And as the participant felt uncomfortable, they were asked to press the space bar when they wanted the figure to stop. So the trial ended when the figure collided with the participant. Okay, this was the entire thing which was written there. So I'll repeat it once more again. So it was a circular room, all right, and there were different figures that were approaching, and the participant was asked to imagine they are in the center. Okay, and they had to press the space bar once they wanted to figure to stop. Okay, they had to yes, so they had to press the space bar when they wanted the figure to stop, and eventually the trial ended when the figure collided with the participant. Okay, now there's a next question which is from another study. Okay, from the study by Baron Cohen, eye test. Okay, the group one sample consisted of 15 participants who were all male. Identify two features of group one sample. So, what were the two features of group one sample? Okay, and this is what we'll look at. Give me a minute, yes. Okay, so we'll continue with it. Yes. All right. So it says yes. So we are in this question right now. From a study by Barron, The group 1 sample consisted of 15 participants who were all male. Okay, so what are the two features of group 1 sample? The first thing first, they were all adults. And the second thing, they all were diagnosed with AS or HFA. These are two features you can write down and you'll get your marks. Explain one strength of the revised eye test. Remember, this study was conducted earlier and it reached its ceiling effect. So when a study reaches its ceiling effect, so there must have been something wrong with the study, and that something wrong could be related to either the procedures were way too simple that everyone attempted it, or either there was some methodological issue. That is why the study could not ensure its validity or was not reliable. So this is what exactly happened with this study earlier. The images that people had to check for eyes, they were way too generic. Okay. So now coming back towards it, explain one strength of the revised eye test. It says quantitative data was collected, so it was easy to compare. This meant that ability on the eye test could be compared between those diagnosed with AS and HFA, those in control group, to detect theory of mind. Okay, so moving on to the next question number 6. So, in the background of the study, Poslow outlined the role of social factors in identification errors made by children. Outline the role of social factors in these errors. What are social factors, by the way? How do we train our children to listen to us? Okay, so what happened? It happened exactly the same here. In this case, a study Poslow, examiners, children they thought police officers as an authority, and children they thought they are obliged to answer the authority, and therefore they had to, when they are being asked to um, identify the suspect from the lineup. So they did, even if the suspect was present or even he was absent. So in both cases, they had to identify it. So the police officer might be seen as an authority, and children think they are obliged to answer authority. So the lineup from an adult might make children feel like a choice has to be made. Okay, and this the child feel stressed of not responding to authority as they are being taught by parents in school to respond to authorities like parent. um, you know, we have been teaching children to respond to authority whenever they're asking questions. Otherwise, it is considered that they are becoming disobedient. They are not so socially oriented. Okay, so this is one social factor that resulted in this case. Now, the next question that we have, it's related to a scenario, situation based. Okay, so this says two friends, Doris and Tony, are discussing the ethics of the study by Poslow. Doris says that study is ethical, but Tony says it's not ethical. All right. Okay, so outline why do you think Doris or Tony is correct? So using any example from the study. So the friend who I think is correct is Tony. You can always go for Dory as well. There's a reason to it too. Anyway, so we'll go with the Tony. Tony says it's not ethical. The children might have felt some psychological stress in the target action lineup. This is because no, this is because social pressure can impact children, and they have chosen under the cognitive stress. Since participants were asked questions by an adult, they considered them as an authority, and they thought that no, we have to answer. That's why. There must be a kind of social, psychological harm to the children. That's why it is not ethical at all. Okay, so I guess it's enough for today. We'll discuss other questions, rest of the questions tomorrow, or maybe some other day. Okay, thank you for your time. Take care. Yes, I'm exhausted. All right, thank you. Allah Hafiz.